The recording of this meeting will be made publicly available on Council's website. All right, item 1 is applications for leave of absence. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Poole, seconded by Councillor Weaver. I have 2, one from Councillor Oldham and one from Councillor Batten. And I'll just bring to the meeting's attention that we have Councillor Rawson on Teams or Link, whatever we want to call it these days as well. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by Councillor O'Ryan. Anything to declare, anybody?
Item 2 of the confidential papers. I've probably been too involved as a community member on that project.
Thanks, Councillor Poole. Item 2 in confidential.
Item 21, Mr Mayor, on page 30, it's a potential and a non-significant, non-pecuniary.
Yeah, sorry, just go again.
Oh, sorry.
You're up.
Item 21, page 30, the road naming. It's potential conflict of interest and it's non-significant, non-pecuniary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any declarations of interest? No? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Item 3 is declaration for political donations. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Jones. Anything to declare, anybody? Nothing?
No, nothing to declare.
All good. Thank you, everybody. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against?
Aye.
That's carried. Item 4 is the mayoral minute of appointment. I will table a report. I know that Councillor Rawson has tabled a report. Does anybody else have anything for the mayoral minute at all? Councillor Weaver.
Yes, I attended the Lions changeover unit for the council and very successful. As you remember, Lions donated over $6,000 to Ronald McDonald House in the past 12 months, plus on the night donated to some other community functions, which is really good. Also, yes, on Sunday, I attended the dance at the ex-services. I attended the dancing at the ex-services club, and I have to say it was amazing to see that many people there dancing, and I know council supported it. But the lovely part about it was on the Saturday night in Wollongong, they held the Australian Championships for ballroom dancing, and the people who won it attend Canowindra on a regular basis. They're from Dubbo. They won the national title, and on their way back from Wollongong they stopped in at Canowindra and did an exhibition dance on the Sunday, which was really lovely. So I congratulate them, and I congratulate the committee that put on that function, and I'm glad we support it. It's very good. And also today I attended the 100-year morning tea for the Canowindra Soldiers Memorial Hospital, which was over 80 people there, and it was very good, and yeah, very successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Anybody else? Councillor Jones?
No, if I could just table a report, please, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Nothing further there. Just one other comment in the mayoral minute. In my report, I tabled that I attended the National General Assembly in Canberra with the General Manager. Pretty good 3 days. Got a fair bit of information out of it, but one of the bits of information that was quite clear to us in meeting a few of the politicians that they're really going to tighten the purse strings up a fair bit. There's not a lot of money there, and I think they made no apologies about that. The General Manager would agree with that. So just for our info, I guess that yeah, the grants and so on, and the incentive programs that they run normally will certainly slow up a bit. All right, nothing further on that good news. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 5 is the Committee of the Whole. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, second by Councillor Poole. Does anybody have anything for the Committee of the Whole? Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I have 18 and 19, please?
18 and 19. Thank you. Anything else for Committee of the Whole? Nothing? Right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 6 is grouping of reports, and we're grouping from 7 to 9 as per the recommendation. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, second by Councillor Rawson. Everybody all right with that? It's grouping 7 to 9. All okay? Yep. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Item 10 is the New South Wales Rural Doctors Network Bush Bursary and CWA Scholarship Program. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Jones, second by Councillor Nash. Now, I might just bring to your attention here a suggestion that this is probably a very good and worthwhile donation that we're doing here to this. And a suggestion to save bringing it back each year, I'm suggesting that we put it in our budget as part of our delivery program for this council period, that each year this will come up and donating this to this very worthy cause. Any thoughts on that?
I think that's a great idea, but annually, is it going to increase? Because $3,000 isn't a lot of money, you know, and if you do it over a period of time, it's surely got to increase. Will you look at it at that particular point?
Yeah, the gentleman has indicated that they usually do send us a letter, so if it does vary, I guess we could vary, I suppose, yeah. Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would also wholeheartedly support this and support the suggestion that we make a regular contribution. And it sends a signal to the rest of the community that we are serious about supporting rural doctors in our region.
Thank you. Anything further on that? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 11 is appointment of Section 355 committees. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Weaver. Any discussion on that at all? Councillor Nash.
Yeah, I didn't know that Yoba wanted to become a 355. Have they always been, or has it only just become? So they wanted to become a 355. Okay.
Gentlemen, yeah.
It's through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the management of the hall was done by a local person for the committee, and now that person's had enough. So the next best option was for him to form a 355 and be with a supporter council, right? Manage that hall. Not too different, I think, to the Manildra way it operates.
Nothing further on that? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Item 12 is delegates to Central Tablelands Water Policy.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor, I should have declared an interest there, as I'm employed by Central Tablelands Water, and I have it in bright red writing on my laptop, so
That's all right.
apologies, I'll fill that out a little bit later.
That's all right. Thank you. Councillor Paul has declared an interest in that matter and is leaving the room. Thank you. All right. Do we get a mover and a seconder there, please? Mover, Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Jones. We're just formalising what we did at the previous meeting, so any discussion on that or anything at all? No? All right, put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Councillor Paul, that was moved as per the recommendation. Item 13 is Local Government Week. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ryan, seconded by Councillor Nash. So the recommendation is that Council participate in Local Government Week 2022. If you'll all be keen to do that.
Mhm.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, could we have another bus tour? I think that there's a few new ones that would like to have a look around the area. Is it true? Yep.
Through you, Mr Mayor. We are arranging a bus tour for all councillors. At this stage, it's planned for November of this year, so it won't coincide with Local Government Week 2022.
So that bus tour is for us to have a look around the various projects, where they're up to, ones that have finished, started, in between, and any issues. Correct?
Traditionally, this one's about
So, are you,
I'd like to
Oh.
see, like we did last year, or the year before, whatever it was, that we went around and just had a look at certain places then, maybe. Schools, yeah.
Through you, Mr Mayor, what I'll do is I'll ask Heidi and the team to look at that model and just being a little bit sensitive to the schools having visitors going to them. They might be back on normal ground, we think, but we'll make those inquiries, and if we can facilitate something like that, we'll come back to you with that option. Is that okay?
Councillor Rawson?
Could I just ask what activities are being considered for Local Government Week by the staff? I noticed there was a list of different activities in previous years. What is being envisaged for this year?
Through you, Mr Mayor. That's why it's a bit of an open question, Councillor, what Council feels it wants to do. And obviously now it appears we are going to examine the feasibility of a bus tour of local schools and community-facing areas, which the one the Deputy General Manager Infrastructure talked about was actually inwards-facing, if you like, seeing our projects. But we'll look at that, and we're sort of asking Council what it really wants to do. We've obviously come off 2 years of Local Government Week being fairly low-key, and these are the traditional options in which we undertake. So, yeah, it's a matter for Council, really, what we're in your hands.
Well, I certainly would appreciate a tour around, but certainly the one that Matt talked about was, yes, as you say, inward focused, and we should do that anyway. But I guess Local Government Week is really about telling people about local government. I assume that's the so it's more outwardly focused. I would also be happy to do a tour around and go around and meet and greet people, and allow them to talk to councillors and staff and learn, particularly for school kids, to learn a little bit more about how local government operates. I think that would be a great idea if that could be organised.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Well, since it's clear we want to get out and about a bit more this year, so perhaps we could bring to the July workshop an options of items, including the bus tour, but what we can tag onto that feasibly with our resources, and talk to our community economy team regarding marketing, promotion, those sorts of things. So we bring something to the workshop to discuss, and we plan it for the August period. Would that be okay?
Yes, that'd be
That's-
great. Thanks, Mr GM. And I think that, the more people that get to meet the councillors is really good. So just whatever we can sort of come up with, I suppose. Thank you.
Yep, Brad, that sounds excellent.
Councillor Weaver?
Mr Mayor, maybe we could look at inviting the school kids here to give a talk on what they'd like to see council participate in, or how they'd like to see council help their particular schools. Maybe some ideas from the students themselves.
Yep, very good. All right, no further discussion. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Item 14 is making of rates and charges for 2022-23. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, second by Councillor Orion. Any discussion on that at all?
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, just really good that we've been able to get a little bit more of an increase than what we had at the start.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Item 15 is partnership agreement with Service New South Wales for business. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by Councillor Poole. Any discussion on that? Just a procedural matter. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against, that's carried. Item 16 is the Village Enhancement Fund 2021 and 22. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poole, second by Councillor Jones. Any discussion on that at all? Councillor Weir.
Can I just ask a question? At the end of the financial year, that money is revoted to them on top of what's left over?
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
And the General Manager tells me that he, at the end of the year, he'll send a letter advising of that fact, where they're at. Yeah. I think she's just trying to find it. Councillor Ryan, any question? Just you, Mike. Yep.
Yeah, no, it was just I noticed that the Canowindra one, not paid due to postponement of event, but someone else, other committees had notified council specifically about that. I'm trying, when they didn't need the money. I'm wondering if the Chamber of Commerce is meant to say that we didn't use the money, can it roll over? No, nothing, okay. I just can't find it, sorry.
It's automatic does.
Yep.
So could you just explain that? It rolls over every year, does it?
So in the policy, it basically rolls over for a period of the delivery program. So that funding's been the decision for the Village Enhancement Fund to go for the term of the delivery program. Now, ideally, we don't want it rolling on forever, so there is a gradual building. But the idea is that they can put aside 2 years funding if they want to spend it on a bit bigger item, or even feasibly they can borrow from the future if some opportunity come up and they forego their next year. But it only operates on the decision of council to enter into the Village Enhancement Fund. Each time the council is elected, will come in and revisit the budget and say for the delivery program we'll run this fund. But obviously we still would, in that case, even if the next council decide not to have Village Enhancement Fund, I'd say it'd be pretty brave council saying it's still not going to go to those community groups. So that's allocated funding for them, and it'll go each year. Ideally, we'd like it spent in a timely way, but if there's a good reason, we'd rather be spent on something worthwhile than race out and spend it just because they want to get rid of the money in a year, if that makes sense.
Is that coming through?
You're right.
Oh. Is it correct that it only goes for 3 years? That's what someone told me the other day, that it's only allocated for 3 years?
Well, as I pointed out, Councillor, it's a term of council, so technically the delivery program goes for 4 years, which is confusing because it doesn't align spot on with our council term at the moment. But generally, we can't make decisions for future council. So if the future council comes in and says the Village Enhancement Fund is no longer, that could happen. So we're making it basically, again, I'm not sure how brave that council will be, but we're saying that it'll run for the term of the delivery program at this instance, which is, as you point out, it's about 3 years. What we're saying is that really there'll be shall I say, a stronger emphasis to say to these community groups approaching the end of those time to say it's been there 3 years. The council may choose to say that rolls off. We start a fresh Village Enhancement Fund, but that money could be not used if no one used it. So it's just ideally that we'd like them to spend it within that footprint of the delivery program or the term of council.
Yes, on the MAG, I think that's good vision with the benches and how the money's going to be spent. Is the signage, does it run parallel with our town master plans? It's not in contradiction of anything going on there?
Luckily, the signage is, the master plans aren't specific as to the type of signage. That I think, and you've tested my memory here, but I'm pretty sure there's provision in the master plan to have signage. It's what that looks like by design, I suppose, is a good question. We'd have to hopefully talk to MAG about what they're doing, but yeah, it is in line with what increased signage. I think every master plan featured a signage component from memory.
Just another question, Mr Mayor, if I can. With the stainless steel benches, they're not going to be outside, are they? Because stainless steel would be terribly hot, wouldn't it? Or is it just in the
No, they're in,
kiosk?
inside the kiosk, yeah. And I'm pretty sure, not to clarify the signage thing, is it's to do up the existing signage boards, yeah.
But it's the signage is in the master plan to increase our signage.
All right, if there's nothing further, I'll put that. All those in favour?
No.
Against? That's carried. Item 17 is the sponsorship program. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poole, second by Councillor Nash. Any discussion on that at all? No? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour?
No.
Against? That's carried. 18 and 19 is from Committee of the Whole. Item 20 is the Cabonne Council Roads Advisory Committee. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor
Also
Nash,
move.
second by Councillor Rawson. Now, I might just point out here that item 3, appoint a councillor representative and alternate representative to the Cabonne Council Roads Advisory Committee. So, item 3 of this, well, sub number 3, whatever you want to call that. One or two ways here. I'd like to probably defer that until we have a full council here, or we could put that back to the infrastructure, transport committee, subcommittee, to make a recommendation as to the council member. Throwing that out there for thoughts.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, could you just really, why is that?
Well, I think that the roads committee, being the subcommittee, this is specifically in that area of that committee. So when we meet, we could come up with the alternate and recommend it to council, or otherwise, I just think that there may be some interest, maybe from a couple of our councillors that aren't here, so they're not here to stick their name up to be given a chance to go on that committee. So
Happy to defer? Yeah.
defer the decision for the council alternative till we have a full council here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody happy with that? So we'll
Yes.
just delete point 3 there and still continue on with this item then. So is the mover and seconder are happy to amend point 3 to delete that and defer it, or amend that to defer till we have a full council committee? Happy with that? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, any further discussion on this at all?
Mr Mayor, I think we have to appoint an alternate for you. don't
Oh,
we?
true, sorry, that's right. Yeah, sorry, thank you for that. So, yeah, now call for a nomination for an alternate, for the mayor.
Mr Mayor,
Councillor Rawson.
should we also not defer that until we have a full quorum? A
Well-
full council?
Probably, but I think, without saying that, I probably would think that it would refer to the deputy mayor as an alternate, even though it doesn't say it. Councillor Matt.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the intent is for the mayor to elect their alternate, and the council agree to that alternate.
Oh, right. All right, there you go. Did you hear that, Councillor Rawson?
I think I did. Didn't quite catch it. Sorry, I thought it was
so
that the mayor is to decide on an alternate and for the council to agree to that.
That's correct.
Okay, that's fine. Yep.
Well, I would suggest that the deputy mayor be the alternate. If that'd be my suggestion. Is everybody happy with that?
Is the deputy mayor happy with that?
He's nodding his head.
That's good. That's good.
All right, any further discussion on that? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour?
All right.
Against? That's carried. Item 21 is proposed road name DA 2022-0084 subdivision lot 101 DP 1282584 Cemetery Road, Molong. Councillor Jones declared an interest in it, but is not leaving the room. So can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, second by Councillor Nash. Any discussion on that, other than changing it to some other name?
Through you, Mr Mayor, just wanted to point out within the recommendation that if there is no objections received, the recommendation states that council officers will proceed with formalisation of the naming. Just wanted to make it clear that if there is no objections, it won't be coming back to council.
Okie dokie. Everybody all right with that? Yeah. Okay, I'll put
Yep.
that, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Item 22 is Cavon Public Swimming Pools Management for 2022-23 season. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Jones, second by Councillor Rawson. Any discussion on that at all? All good. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against, that's carried. Item 23, planning proposal. Proposed rezoning of 51 Winter Lane, Summerhill Creek from RU1 primary production to R5 large lot residential. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor O'Ryan. Any discussion on this at all? Councillor Rawson.
Look, I don't have a major issue with it. Just we've just not long ago refused a change in subdivision, boundary size and so on, just not too far away from there, and I'm just not quite sure why there is a difference with this one. The primary issue here is ending up with a rural lot that is under the minimum size, which was the outcome of the previous one that we refused, and for that reason. So I'm just not sure where we stand with that. If we don't allow one and then allow another one nearby for the same reason.
Yep, the general manager will take that question. There is a difference in the two.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, there's a danger without my wise planner with us, but at the moment, this is a planning proposal that is using the actual change of zoning through the appropriate process. We don't determine this, the Department of Planning decides this. So it is the mechanism by which appropriate rezonings happen. You're referring to a change of boundary, which is a different means, possibly trying to get similar ends, but it's not the mechanism that this proposal talks about. So this is using the LEP and the planning instruments that exist in council. That there are areas that will support this potentially, or still there'll be questions asked. So that's why it comes back to council, goes on public display. But the Department of Planning makes the determination in this instance as to whether this should be zoned to large lot residential out of rural, whereas the other proposal was using a different mechanism via a boundary adjustment, which is for the purview of council to do. And I'd like to comment on whether this would be the mechanism where that proposal would be most appropriately done. But if you're changing zoning size, a planning proposal is the mechanism to be done through the Department of Planning, and that's what this proposal is, whereas the other one was not using the same enabling legislation, etc. It was being done through a boundary adjustment, and they're two different things. Maybe the same outcome, but they're done in different ways. And one
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes, look, thanks for the clarification there, Brad. That was all. I just noted the similarities, and I just was not sure about why there was a difference in the way in which they were being handled. So thank you for that clarification.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. We're just receiving and noting it, aren't we? And we're forwarding the planning proposal to the Department of Planning. So that's really, I think, the gist of it, Andrew.
Thanks, Marlene. Yes. Yep.
All right, no further questions on that at all? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Right.
No. No division for that. As against? Carried. Item 24 is questions for next meeting. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor O'Ryan, second by Councillor Nash. Does anybody have any questions for next meeting? Councillor Poole.
Yeah, just further down in the report, it goes into, there's a report on the lighting for the local sports grounds. Is there, and me being a new councillor, was there a Eugowra master plan that identified any work to be done at the Eugowra sports ground with their lighting? Simply because they would get more light out of one of those bulbs at the sports ground at Eugowra than what they've got there. So is there any planning?
Councillor, I take that on notice. I can let you know. I would be surprised. I'm pretty sure that there was talk of lighting. I'm just trying to remember the extent of the master plan. You got it, Matt?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I do not believe it's in a part of the master plan. However, there has been interest from the user groups with regards to lighting, and we have made inquiries with regards to funding opportunities for that, but it hasn't gone much further than that.
So with that, are we in a position to help them, or do they need to come to us to pursue grant opportunities? Or
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Stronger Country Communities is possibly a grant opportunity that's coming up again. Another round will come up. Hopefully it's in the state budget, I think, that they've just announced. So that was, pretty sure from memory, that's where Molong Lights originally, half funding come from Stronger Country Communities. So it's where the council prioritises. That's an open amount of money for the Shire for Stronger Country Communities. So it can be external parties also compete for that money as well as council, but that's something that would possibly help Eugowra if it was deemed a priority of council. There may be some other grants that the grants team can access as well. There's also resources for regions, hopefully it keeps ongoing. So there's some grant opportunities. It's about the prioritisation because Eugowra's master plan, we've put a fair bit of money towards Eugowra, but there's always, we can look at that in the mix.
Anybody else have any questions for next meeting? No? Hang on, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 25, business paper items for noting. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poole, second by Councillor Weaver. Does anybody wish to call out any of the items for noting for at all?
A tree report from Montana Park, was that in the items for noting?
Yep.
Yeah, I get that mixed up all the time. Yeah, I'd just like to thank Matthew and his crew for the report. It's very good. There's definitely quite a few dangerous trees there, and I'm pleased now that we've got them looked at. Thank you.
Good. Very good, Marlene. Yep. Anybody else want to call out any items there?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just bear with me for a sec. When I go to look at my business papers, you lose me. I did have one that I wanted to. Number 5, yes, the Cargo Road and Bullabula Way condition. And I just wanted to thank staff for that report, but also whether or not it'd be possible in future when we're presenting information about the condition of roads that we get a map as well of where the sections of road are that are being worked on or that are being envisaged for work. I mentioned it in committee a couple of months ago, and now that there is mapping software available as part of that road condition software, it'd be nice if we were able to see the map as well. I tend to like looking at maps and looking at where we are across the area, just to give me a sense of the section of road that is being considered. That was all. That was the only question I wanted to have.
Yeah, if you can see as the staff are nodding, good idea, and that'll be done.
Thank you very much. There was one last thing, the median processing times, item 16, to note, and I did note that there was a significant blowout in processing times in this last month, and I suspect that I know the reason for that. I just wanted to put it on record that this is I'll put on record for the public that processing times are slower these days simply because of paucity of staff to be able to do this, and this is a common problem throughout New South Wales, which was highlighted at the local government New South Wales conference earlier on in the year, and that I suspect that staff are working diligently to process the development applications as quickly as they possibly can, and that this is just something that's a little bit out of council's control.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're correct, and our times are actually a lot better than other rival councils, so yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I wanted to mention.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody else? Anything for noting? No? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Item 26 is matters of urgency. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, second by Councillor Nash. Does anybody have anything urgent? Nope. All right. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 27 is Committee of the Whole. Could I have someone move that we move into Committee of the Whole? Moved by Councillor Jones, second by Councillor Poole. All those in favour?
Aye.
against, carried. So item 18 has been called by councillor Rawson. I would suggest you would move that. Councillor Rawson?
I'd like to make comment about that.
We need a mover and a seconder first.
Okay, I'll move that.
Thank you, and seconded by councillor Poole. Now, over to you, councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a pretty important document that I think requires a little bit more discussion, and it's been thrust upon us fairly rapidly. And I understand that all we're being asked to do here is to endorse it being to be put out for public consultation. There are some things within it that I think are a little bit incendiary and a little bit strange. I don't know where they've come from, a bit left field. And I think that the council needs to have a little bit more time to digest this document, particularly where it does and doesn't marry with our IPNR planning. Now I note that both Orange and Blaney have had a significant amount of discussion about this document and some of the things within it. They've both, I've been in contact with both councils, and they've both allowed it out for public consultation and comment, but with a proviso that there is a workshop within that 28-day period for councillors to digest it and provide feedback and comment on it within that 28-day period. And I'm suggesting that we do something along the same lines. This will allow everybody, including council staff, to digest it and to modify it if necessary. And I believe that it needs modification.
Yeah, no, very good suggestion. Anybody else wish to comment about that? I think that's a good idea, councillor Rawson.
Yeah, I agree, Andrew, but maybe we should vote on some of those things ourselves before it goes in. Is that what you mean?
I don't think we need to vote on particular changes to the document right now. I mean, I'd love to remove a couple of things from it, but we're not a full council today, and like that previous resolution, I think it would be best if we have everybody in the room and discuss it openly. Probably best to do that via a workshop so that we can get all the issues bashed around. And then at the next meeting, we can make modifications as required. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. I mean, I'm happy to make some changes now if you wish, but I think, to be fair to the other councillors who aren't here, probably would be best done later.
I'll just, the gentleman is going to place a comment there and a couple of suggestions.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, and those are all good points made by the councillors. Obviously, a collaborative plan is somewhat fraught, no matter what we do, and that we've done a lot of thinking about this, and that's why even if the plan is taken up, let's say taken up by the three councils, we would only be endorsing that plan rather than adopting it, because we don't want to get ourselves into a situation where we're adopting other sovereign councils' projects, etc., by implication. So the intent of the document is to guide council's processes, and project by project, council would still go through a situation if we were actually operating on our land and putting our funds towards it. That would still be done by a separate ratification and adoption by the council. So it's not binding the council into all the activities by endorsing the plan. So that just might clarify too a little bit going forward, that it's basically that the plan is endorsed, but each action still we would be looking to, particularly obviously as we build going forward. If council was intending on going to do project A, I'll just nominate that, well, that would then appear in next year's operational plan for council, which council would then adopt. And it wouldn't happen because the operational plan is linked to our budget. That is the the source document that drives the activities of council, where this plan would inform that document, but it doesn't bind us to resources, etc., and action. Does that make sense? So that's where we're at with this, and a number of other collaborative plans. That's why we endorse them rather than adopt. There's a little technicality there, and then any action or activity that requires spending would have to be voted by council unilaterally or sovereignly, if you like, in this chamber, rather than taking on other people's concepts and ideas. So I hope that helps, but it's still worthwhile going through these processes and having the workshop. That's how we manage any project that come out of it. It still would have to either appear in our plan for the year or come via a report separately to say this was endorsed by the Destination Management Plan. Now we want to spend X amount of dollars on having that happen, and this council decides whether to do that. Thank you.
So that's thank you, Mr. GM. That certainly clarifies that for everyone. What do you think Orange Maloney would think if we held off for too long?
That's a good question, Councillor. I would, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we've been in this situation before. The industrial and I think it's employment zone plan that we did a few years back when I first got here, that you can get the timing out, but it basically, the power of the plan would be diluted. So if we're using it for grant funding or those sorts of opportunities, obviously if it hasn't been endorsed by Cabon, it loses that potency of the three coming out, which is really the purpose of it, is to show that the importance of this for our sub-region. So that would be the situation, but it'll be, obviously we'd have to work through, like we would with the Alliance generally, if there's a sticking point, how welded on are the other two councils to that? Is it a deal breaker? All those sorts of things we'd have to work through. But hopefully, one would hope we'd be able to come up with an understanding of what the plan means to each council, and whether, again, we all understand the purpose of it is not to lock those councils into decision making per se. It is to inform still our decision making as a body politic.
Yeah, thank you very much. I wonder whether we could just put the recommendation then.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, hang on. Well, you've had a procedural motion. I have to follow the procedural motion. I was going to make a suggestion before, if I could. I'll take leave to do that. Councillor Rawson's point 3 to it, that we have a workshop within 28 days. Are you happy with that? To add to point 3, Councillor Rawson, you're the mover.
Look, I think we've got a workshop time within that period of time anyway, and it could be incorporated within that same day. I would hope. I would think that in terms of recommendation, I'd actually remove number 1 there and just have number 2, endorse the draft to be placed in public exhibition, and potentially another one with a workshop to be held within that 28-day period for feedback from councillors. This is effectively what Blaney did, because they had problems with it as well. They've just endorsed it to go out to public exhibition. So the other councils have done exactly this. They haven't actually endorsed the document. They haven't said that the document. They haven't. Well, basically that first point that's there doesn't exist. Certainly not with Blaney. I'm not sure about Orange. But certainly they have endorsed it to go out to public exhibition with the proviso that there is a council workshop in the meantime.
Yeah, I'll take a comment from the General Manager.
Well, if the important word there is obviously in the resolution recommendation is draft. So we're saying that is the draft. We endorse that is the draft that is going out. That's the procedural. I don't think it would stop the mechanism if we only had the one recommendation there that endorsed the draft to go out on public display. So it's not really going to change what occurs. So it will go out, and it says council has endorsed this draft going out for public display, because the important one, which is obviously going to be the contentious one, is endorsing the actual plan when that comes
Correct.
around in whatever shape or form. I suppose the only thing that we've got to consider, which is still fine, that if in the workshop, and there is unfortunately it is somewhat subjective, if there is materially a large change to the plan itself, it may give rise to another period of exhibition, if that makes sense, but that's something that happens. That's making public policy, and these things happen. But just we'd be aware of, there'd be then a question: have we changed it to a larger material, consequential extent? And that might be something we have to talk to our two alliance partners with as well, because if there is, we're not endorsing something if it changes the plan. So that's just to turn our minds to, councillors. But I think if you wanted to take away item 1 or recommendation 1, I don't think that's going to change operationally what we do with the plan, and we can address the final, I suppose, labelling of the plan being endorsed holistically at a later council meeting.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, hang on a second. No, that's all right. So we're going to take out 1 and add in the workshop as part of the recommendation. Who was the seconder on that? Councillor Poole.
Yep, and happy to support the
Support that.
amendment, yep.
Yeah, all right. I've gone overtime on that, Councillor Rawson, because we've had a procedural motion to put it, so I have to follow that now. So I'll put that. All those in favour that we put it?
Aye.
Put the motion as it is.
Oh, sorry, as it is? No.
As it is here.
As it is here, as the amended one.
Oh, so the amended one.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't see that.
So what we've deleted item 1, and we just got item 2 in there. So dot point 1's been deleted, dot point 2 is in, with the addition to having a workshop within the 28-day period.
Thank you. Yes, I would agree with that.
Yep. So now I'm going back to the procedural motion, that we've had a procedure that we have no further discussion on this, and then we put it. So I'll put that. All those in favour of that we put it? All
Aye.
for it? Right. So now we're back to that amended recommendation, which is the one that you've suggested, Councillor Rawson, and seconded by Councillor Poole. So I'll put the motion now. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? That's carried. We're on track.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Item 19 is the Cabonne Floodplain Management Advisory Committee. Councillor Rawson, you put that in committee of the whole. Are you moving that?
I'm moving that.
Can I have a seconder, please? Second by Councillor Nash. Now, before you speak, Councillor Rawson, it would be my probably intention to apply, as I did with the roads one, take point 3 out for today's meeting, and we appoint a councillor rep at a future meeting, given the fact that we're down 2 councillors. Are you happy with that?
I am.
All right. Okay, so at this stage we'll amend the recommendation to delete dot point 3 and just add in there that we will appoint a councillor at a future meeting. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, really, I noted the letter that came through, or letters that came through about wanting to maintain this committee as a Molong-focused committee. I disagree with that. I understand the reasons for it, for that letter, but I think that this committee is going to be far more effective, a committee, if it is focused on floodplain management across the entire LGA. We can't just be focused on one particular town, because there are other locations across the LGA where flooding is a regular occurrence. and I believe will be an increasing threat due to climate change. So that I think that this is an improvement on just having a single town floodplain committee. It can certainly build on the experiences of that committee, and then to be able to look at all of the locations across the LGA where flooding is likely to occur. So I'm effectively endorsing what is being suggested, and just noting the opposition to that from one member of the public. I understand that opposition, but I would assure that person that this new committee would be far more effective in a broader sense, looking at the issue in a broader way.
Yeah, agree, thank you. Now, does everybody else agree with the fact to take dot point 3 out? And the reason I'm not probably suggesting it's more for this one, Councillor Oldham is really the outgoing. She's just been newly elected to the floodplain committee. She was the alternate to the previous floodplain committee, and I just thought that the fact that she wasn't here today, and she would obviously want to nominate to continue on that role, so that's why I suggested that we take that out and give her opportunity to run again if she wishes, that's all. So is everybody okay with that?
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, I was just wondering why, like, we usually just, whoever's here, we just go for it, but if that's what you wish, that's
Well, that's
fine.
that's my only reason, is the fact that she was the alternate the previous council term, and then she just, on this new council, she's only had a short term in that. So, yeah, that was the only reason.
Mr Mayor?
Hang on, Andrew. Yeah, I support it, Kevin. I think if you're off on holidays in Hawaii, you miss the boat, but if you're at home sick, I think it'd be a bit helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I wholeheartedly support that. We've got three people, including myself, at home sick, and I think it's a polite and decent thing to do to allow everybody the opportunity to put their hand up for a committee they wish to be on. So I support your view in this instance. The only other thing I was going to ask a question of the council about was whether or not, because we're expanding the scope of this committee, whether or not we should increase the number of public members to the committee. At the moment it sits at 3, and I'm wondering whether or not to allow for more people from other towns to be involved, whether or not we increase that number slightly, 4 or 5. What do other people think?
Hang on, let's take a comment from Matt.
If I can, Mr Mayor, the proposal following on the comments received from Grow Molong has been to include 3 alternates within the committee. There would be nothing stopping those alternates from attending the meetings. They just wouldn't have voting rights if the person they were alternating for was in the room. Furthermore, I'd like to point out that whilst there is a preference within the terms of reference for place-based representation, it is merit-based selection. So if there are individuals that have floodplain management experience from the community whom are in other towns, they would also be considered and they wouldn't be disqualified from being able to put in an expression of interest.
Councillor Nash.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to say that I really want this to be Cabonne, not just one town. I think that we just need to do that because we're all one, we're all Cabonne, and that's what we want to show and showcase. So, yeah, we'll just carry on with Cabonne, I think.
Yeah, no, that's right, and not as well. And just to point out there that obviously the individual locations we know that have the issues, the focus will be on those, as well. So the committee will focus on those particular issues. So it's won't be lost. So the individualness of Molong won't be lost, or the individualness of Yagara, for example, won't be lost. be, like you said, and Canandra and all these other places that we have flooding, you know, we have flooding in Cumlock sometimes, you know. So, but the focus of the committee will be exactly what you said on Cabon, with the narrowing in focus on those problem areas. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and just being pointed out by the general manager, whispered to me that there's really no urgency to set this committee. So,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, obviously, sometimes we would have to charge through and select a member if they're in Hawaii. Poor old ScoMo, I noticed you got one on in there, councillor, but, or if someone's ill, we may have to have a person nominated, but given there's a bit of discretionary time, that's the reason, one of the reasons we're saying we could just wait. Because there's no guarantee the meeting that we think we're going to do this, that this doesn't happen again, but just because we don't have that time pressure on us, that we can be a little bit more forgiving, so to speak.
all right. Now we have to do the alternate to the mayor, and I probably would apply the same to this committee, that I think that the deputy mayor should be the alternate to the mayor in this committee. So is everybody happy with that?
Yes.
Is the deputy mayor willing to accept that? Yeah. All right. All right. No further discussion on that. Everybody happy? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. All right. We'll move on to the supplementary report. Item 28. So is everybody with me on the supplementary report? So it's the Cabon Council Development Contribution Plans. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, second by Councillor Nash. Now, before any discussion on this at all, probably just ask Matt to comment on this, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council has been for some time moving towards amendments to our contributions plans that we have in place. Currently we have 3 contributions plans, one being for bushfire and 2 being roads related. The 711 and 712 plans would supersede, if adopted, the 2 roads contributions plans that are currently in place. The plans as presented in draft provide a number of benefits. Firstly, with regards to the 712 plan, which will take in most of the development that is coming in, well, the vast majority. One, it's much simpler to interpret. It is on a scale of $100,000 to $200,000, 0.5% of the value of the development, and over $200,000, 1% of the value of the development works. So it's much easier from a developer point of view to be able to understand how those development contributions are applied. In that simplicity, we have had to undertake a process of electing how we would spend those monies raised, and within the 712 plan there is a schedule of works where the money that would be accumulated in reserve would eventually be spent on those roads. You will notice in that schedule as well they have been nominated as high, medium and low, so obviously we would be pursuing the high rated roads as a priority and make our way through that. The schedule has been put together on what could be reasonably achieved with what we forecast would be received. So we have forecast that on our current growth and development applications, approximately $300,000 to $350,000 would be received per annum for development contributions, and so the plan over the 10 years is around that $3.5 million worth of work. With regards to the 711 plan, it is a plan based on the impacts of heavy haulage uses such as freight logistics hubs, mines or quarries, where significant vehicle mass is travelling over council, regional and local roads and causing a increased or more rapid deterioration of the road network, and is intended to provide a contribution towards that rapid deterioration to council to assist in the road repairs. I'm seeking council's endorsement to undertake public exhibition of this. There are some planning changes to how, some transitional changes that are coming into effect in the new financial year with development contributions, and seeking council's leave to proceed to public exhibition of the documents, which will assist us in getting ahead of those transitional changes that are coming into effect next financial year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, Matthew, I'm just wondering, through the chair, is that something like they tried to do with Canowindra, Limescombe, the quarry? They tried to get so much a kilometre or something out of...
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wasn't at council at the time, but I am aware that it was a voluntary planning agreement with the proponent there with regards to contributions for the upgrade of that road to facilitate the development.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so VPA sits outside this process, so that's almost a one-on-one negotiated process with the developer to determine the impacts on council's infrastructure. Might be guided by some of this, but it's a separate arrangement.
Anybody else have any comment, question? No?
Happy to go on exhibition.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. All right, we'll move out of the ordinary meeting.